Well, hello all you wonderful people out there in YouTube land, and welcome to the Texas Special YouTube channel. For this September 2025 O-Gauge locomotive review, we are taking a look at this gorgeous Williams conventional SD40-2. Now, while I normally review factory stock items, this is a little different. This guy was originally delivered from the factory as a Santa Fe SD40-2, and it was custom painted by not the previous owner, but the owner before the previous owner. I picked this engine up back in 2023 from a private dealer in Baytown, Texas, and the paint job on this and the lettering and everything is absolutely first rate. You cannot tell that this was a custom paint job by someone else. So the locomotive features die-cast metal trucks and fuel tank with actually very good detailing on the trucks. You can see there all of the correct brake shoes and brackets and everything. You can see the little sway bar here, the shock absorber here. You can see the air pistons, which this one actually has a little nick on it in the paint, so it's showing bare metal, but it's still a fantastic locomotive. And of course, the fuel tank here is die-cast metal, and it does feature a filling nozzle, the sight glass, and this little shut-off button, which is slightly oversized, but whatever. It is a Williams. It's not an MTH Premier or Lionel scale item, but overall, very well done. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the rear trucks while we're back here. All right, so focusing in more on the cab and nose area and some of the hand railings, you can see prototypically correct, FRA mandated contrasting hand railing ends. The handrails are a little oversized, but not enough to be detrimental to the appearance of the model. They look leaps and bounds better than, say, the traditional 027 Lionel train set diesel hand railings, like what you see on Lion Chief engines and older starter set type diesels. You can see a prototypically accurate Nathan 3-chime air horn, which you'll get a little better view of that here in a minute when we look at the roof of the engine. Very nicely done, very well executed. And I can't tell if that's paint or if that's just a decal, which looking at it from above, I think that might be paint. I see a little bleed over from the nose to the pilot. But the separation here along the sides is absolutely exquisite. Of course, the EMD front designation. You have these this lettering here along the battery boxes and whatnot, the 8632, which matches the number boards and the numbers on the rear of the locomotive, which again you'll see in a little bit. And everything on this locomotive is legible as far as the lettering and the warning labels and everything else. And this little strobe light does light up when the engine is got power to the track and moving. And of course you have the sand filling nozzle here, which again you'll see that a little better when we actually fire this thing, or when we look at the roof of the engine. Looking along the long hood on the conductor side of the locomotive, you will see these cast-on grills here. This is the air intake grill for the turbocharger and the cast-on grill for the air intake for the actual locomotive cooling system. The gorgeous and well-done Southern Pacific on the side with the speed lettering, which I love. I have many, many memories as a kid growing up in Cuero, Texas, seeing SP motive power in that. That's actually the screen protector or screensaver on my phone is the Southern Pacific speed lettering. Picture I took off of one of the few patch leaders I've had. Again, the handrails are very well done. You have the white frame sill all the way around. And you have some lettering here and here, and a warning high voltage label here. Again, all the lettering on this engine is legible. Looking at the rear of the locomotive, you can see there is some slight indentation here with the handrails bent in just a little bit on the conductor side, but that's fine. It doesn't detract. It's not enough to detract from the appearance of the model. On the rear, you can see the safety chain is actually a chain. You have these cast-on grab irons here, as well as right here. The cast-on classification lights here, the SP8632, which again matches the number boards and the size of the cab. The rear headlight, these little punch-outs here that, again, are prototypically correct. You have the sand filling nozzle here, and you can just barely make out the lift rings on the very rear of the engine. And of course, these blank number boards, which came standard on all SD40s, but not every railroad chose to utilize them. You've also got these little hideaway little bins here, which are prototypically located, prototypically correct. If you're talking about one of these engines in the modern parlance, as of 2023, these engines, obviously, first of all, they would be painted bright armor yellow, or they would be working for a short line somewhere or a locomotive leasing company somewhere. An SD40 in today's world, as far as Class 1 railroad goes, these would be mainly used on hump jobs. They may or may not be remote control equipped locomotives. And these little hatches here, the regular crew, if it's used on a local, if it's regularly assigned to a specific yard job or local job, they would have, the conductor might stash a brake stick in there, spare batteries for his lantern, or an accurate gauge for air tests, things of that nature. The engineer might stash an extra air hose or two, an air hose wrench, maybe a hammer thing, little nicks and knacks that us professional railroaders would actually need to use on the real railroad. The handrail on this end, on the conductor's side of the rear pilot, is a little bent out of place. I have glued it back. It is secure, so it's not in danger of flopping around or breaking off. The pilot is rather Spartan. There's no MU hose attachments. There's no MU cable. It's just there. There is a footboard, which may or may not be prototypically accurate, depending on the railroad that you're talking about. For the Southern Pacific, that this is not prototypically accurate, but it is Williams, so they're not going to make prototypical, prototype-specific details one SD40-2 to another. The engine does feature operating die-cast knuckle couplers, but they're electronic, and I'm not quite 100% sure how they work, so anybody that's more familiar with Williams trains than me, especially the older Williams trains, feel free, drop it in the comments. Let me know what I'm missing out here. On the engineer's side of the locomotive, everything is basically the same. The only difference is there's no bulge for the turbocharger housing. Again, same cast-on grills, and I neglected to mention the cast-on grill here on this cooling blister, this dynamic brake blister. But same level of detail, same exquisite lettering. The decal wraps around all the ridges very well. And this is the only spot I've found on the whole model where there's any kind of flaking or cracking from the decals anywhere on this engine. So here it is, the business end of this beast. You can see 2 of the 3 chimes on the air horn, the number boards which are not illuminated, the headlight, cast-on marker lights, of course the gorgeous SP here on the front. You have the cast-on grab irons here and here. You have the window glazing on the cab all the way around. There is no interior detailing or illumination in the cab. You have, again, the safety chain is actually a chain. Those little storage bins that I was talking about. You have a cast-on step right here on the engineer's side of the walkway, and you have another cast-on step here. Actually, that's a cast-on grab iron. Another cast-on step here. The walkway all the way throughout is sans safety tread, so it is smooth plastic. This engine, the body of this locomotive all the way throughout is done in plastic. You have a separately applied, actually modular applied snowplow here, which attaches in the same manner as pretty much every other modular supply or modular attached snowplow on the market for O-gauge. It has two little screws. You screw it in from the underside here, and it's on. I do wish this thing had MU hoses, but that's not a hard fix. Later on down the road, if it's still bugging me, I might throw some on. And of course, the same electronic operating knuckle coupler here as on the rear. Starting with the cab, we're looking at the roof of the locomotive, and you can see kind of sorta there's this little walkway here, which on the real locomotives allows a locomotive engineer or conductor or maintenance personnel to walk from one engine to the other safely. Now on the real railroad, this would be down only when it is coupled up an MU to another locomotive, and of course this safety chain would be draped this way across the two units, and the safety chain from the other engine will be draped this way, making a more safe walkway than just, nothing to grab a hold to if you slip or fall. You have a better view of that sand filling nozzle I was talking about, and a better view of the Nathan 3-chime air horn, and of course the little operating light, beacon light. Here over the turbocharger housing, you can see a cast-on grill on top, as well as 3 little cast-on lift rings. The non-operating exhaust stack with 2 lift rings and kind of bare bones rivet detailing around each panel. Moving farther back towards the rear of the locomotive on the cab, you can see these 5 cast-on grills. The grills are not see-through, they are all one solid casting. And you can see some more lift rings here, 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 and here. These 2 would be for the dynamic brake, the locomotive's dynamic braking. These would be for the actual cooling of the prime mover on the locomotive. Here you can see the separately applied sand nozzle here, and there's also a little curved hand railing here, which is prototypically accurate for an SD40-2 and pretty much any EMD engine that has these cooling fans on the rear of the locomotive. On the underside of the engine, there's not a whole lot of detail. Shocker, I know. You have the 1 pickup roller per truck. The middle axles on the engine are blind, but they do convey power from the motor to the inner axle. And the front axle on here and the rear axle here, they are free rolling, but they have magnets which are used to convey information to the sensor for the sound system on board the locomotive. Coming back here, you have a traction tire here, and you have a traction tire here on the locomotive. So you have 2 traction tires on this engine. And of course, you have the fuel tank is the housing for the sound system, and this little screw right in here is actually the volume adjustment knob. So turning it clockwise turns the sound up, turning it counterclockwise turns the sound down. I've got the engine on the track here on the TexLa Model Railroad Club's O-gauge modular railroad, and we are going to fire this thing up, get it coupled up to a freight train, and run it around, see how she does. Something that I neglected to mention for this locomotive, it is equipped with QSI sound, and it has constant directional lighting. So let's check out the bell and the horn, and then we will couple up to our train.